and welcome to Saving People Queering Things, the supernatural podcast where zombies are always a bad sign. Today we are pulling up to season 5, episode 15, Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. I am your host, Elayna, and joining me today are my lovely co-hosts, Noah and August. How are y'all doing, friends?
Hello.
Fantastic. Oh, this episode kind of hit hard and very different.
Fantastic, but also traumatized.
Yep.
My boy Bobby is put through the ringer.
Yeah, Bobby cannot catch a break this season.
No.
Emotionally, physically, strategically, bad,
metaphorically.
All of the above.
Hyperbolic.
Bad time for Bobby.
Yeah, pour one out for Bobby, even though he's still here. Anyway. Now that you have met your host for today, it's time to catch you up. And if you haven't watched Supernatural recently, here's what you've missed on the road so far. First up, your boy Noah is going to recap the show up to this point.
Hell yeah.
Are you ready, friend?
Yeah.
Totally.
All right, let me count you in. 3, 2, 1, go.
So Sam and Dean have fought each other many a time, and now they find out that the angels want them to fight each other in the form of these angels. So they have spent this whole season trying to stop the apocalypse and trying to shut Lucifer down and stopping him from bringing the horsemen back to enact the rest of the apocalypse, which involves the brothers fighting each other to the death. They met Michael when they time traveled to the back, to the future, and to the past. They're time traveling all over the place. It's a lot. That was my weakest show recap.
I thought it was splendid.
You hit on some different.
You've never done anything wrong in your life, Noah.
That's so bad.
Gross overstatement, but it's fine. It's what I believe. Are you going to argue with what I believe, Noah?
Yeah.
Take the compliment. Go on.
All right. And now August is going to recap this week's trauma dump. Are you ready? Sum this episode up.
Honestly, yeah. You could just trauma dump.
Yeah.
All right. Let me know when you're ready.
Yeah. I think I'm ready.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, go.
The dead are rising in Sioux Falls, and that includes the child of local sheriff Jody Mills, as well as Bobby Singer's dead wife. Turns out that there is another horseman on the loose. Death has come to town, and Winchesters are on the case trying to figure out how can they stop all of these zombies that are slowly turning evil. Turns out that Death has targeted Bobby because he's working with the Winchesters, and Bobby has to say goodbye to his wife yet again.
Damn.
That was the most mellow recap ever.
Yeah, you took my incoherent ramblings
as a cucumber through that whole thing.
Watch how much better.
I just decided I wasn't gonna panic, and I was like, you know what? I think we're gonna say what we're gonna say, and we're not gonna panic.
Such a strong decision.
I usually can't bring that energy, so I think my last recap was like a hot mess. So yeah, we're learning.
It was like you meditated just before doing that. It was well done.
It
also helps that I watched the episode right before this recording, so it's a little fresher than it sometimes is for me.
Very well done.
That's great. It's a good recap.
Thank you.
On all points. And now it's time to get into our episode mixtape where we're going to pick some music to accompany us on our journey. Here's what we've got for you this week. Noah, do you want to go first?
Sure. This week I went with sort of a breakup song, Pictures by Judah and the Lion, featuring Casey Musgraves. It's very sad, definitely leans more towards the breakup side of things, so I'm obviously basing it on Bobby and how he's feeling having to say goodbye to Karen for the third time. God.
Yeah.
The chorus goes, I know that you love me still, but we're not the same, and if I'm being honest, I don't really want you this way. Look what we've become, just another sad song of a love gone wrong. I hate that I'm taking our pictures off the walls. And he even says, she's the love of my life. How many times do I have to kill her? So that's, yeah.
Oh,
I can't believe you've done this.
Ouch.
Sorry.
That concept of like, you're not the person anymore.
Because Bobby's severely changed. And we'll talk. Yeah.
Yeah, on both ends. She's not the person anymore because she's literally not the person. but more tragically, he's changed and he's trying to, okay. It's fine.
What about you?
Also going sad today. I picked Souvenirs by Switchfoot, which is has a line that goes, here's to the twilight, here's to the memories, these are my souvenirs, my mental pictures of a lifetime. Yeah, it's a song about, looking back at your life and looking at these things that make up who you were. There's the chorus goes, I close my eyes and go back in time. I can see you smiling. You're so alive. And just feeling that for Bobby, particularly in this episode. Elayna?
Oh, well, my pick for this week is very much about like the end of the episode, talking about Bobby, but also just the boys and how scared I think they are of how sad Bobby is. The song's called Deep End by Ruel, and it's a very like haunting sort of track. And some of the lyrics, the chorus, it's I'm slipping into the deep end. I'm in over my head. I can't catch my breath. Feel the current within, but I can't help but give in. And so it just, as like the hope is being sapped from Bobby in the end of this episode, it very much reminds me of that song. So that's yep. We got a couple of depressing bangers for you all this week.
A lot of good sad songs. Let's knock it out.
Songs. If you're looking to cry to your tunes, then we got you. Now that we have Mixtape playing, it is time for this week's hunt. And today we're exploring the 15th episode of season 5, Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid, which is one of my favorite episode titles of the season for sure.
Such a good
which
one.
we're gonna talk about where this
we'll talk about it.
Reference comes from. It's a great reference.
It's a good title. It's good layers. But for those of you who haven't been listening so far this season, we are discussing season 5 themes through the lens of the Supernatural Tarot deck. And this week's card that we have is the Knight of Bones. So August is going to tell us a little bit about the Supernatural card, and then I'll fill in some blanks by talking about the card itself from the original tarot.
Yeah. So the Knight of Bones is a character. The character on the Knight of Bones Supernatural card is a character we haven't met yet. So I'm not going to specifically talk about who that is, because in the interest of avoiding spoilers. But I will read the card itself description. So this tarot card advises you to put action behind your visions and goals. Set your sights on a goal and pursue it with a potent mix of determination and kindness. But also I'm going to read the reversed description of this card. When it's reversed, the energy and motivation of the Knight of Bones turns restless and irritated. If things aren't going according to plan right now, adjust your strategy. Barreling onward will only lead to you becoming frustrated by a continued lack of progress. Pause to rethink the situation and come up with a more efficient game plan. I think that reversed description maybe is hitting a little bit more for me when I think about this episode, that like you're trying to reach your goals or trying to stop Lucifer, but it's not working. Like everything that they're doing is not really working out quite as expected. But Elayna, can you give us a little more context on this card in the traditional tarot?
So for the card in the traditional tarot is actually the Knight of Wands. They have like some differences in Supernatural. The Bones card are the wands suit, the blades are the swords in the traditional tarot. But this one, the Knight of Wands, is a card that as August was saying, it's very much about when it's in the upright position. The card's description is like ambition, risk taker, action oriented, and that kind of to me like reminds me a bit of how Bobby is sort of being like, I'm gonna absolutely take this risk to make sure I get to keep the person that I care about, even though I could possibly die doing this very risky thing. It says to balance out your impulses with rational thinking and think about the road ahead, but I feel like Bobby is very much kind of not doing that, in that he's just like, I just want this moment. I just want to be with her right now. And since August was talking a bit about the reverse, I can give y'all that one as well. And this is through the specific deck I'm looking at is the Mystic Mondays deck, which is a really awesome, like traditional cards, but like modernized artwork and descriptions. And it describes that one as impatience, carelessness, and rashness, which is very much where Bobby is sort of operating.
For very understandable reasons.
Frustration and anger will arise with every delay that occurs, and it will only get worse as time rolls along. So that's very much the way the zombie situation ends up unfolding. So it's a bit about the Knight of Wands from our traditional tarot history.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So that all brings us to our main discussion this week, and I think we have a lot of thoughts. Let's get to it.
Let's start maybe with the title of this episode.
Yes.
This title, Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid, is a reference to a 1982 noir murder mystery movie with Carl Reiner and Steve Martin. So Carl Reiner, who among many other things was the creator and producer of the Dick Van Dyke Show, and Steve Martin, who again also many things, most recently Only Murders in the Building.
Iconic.
iconic. Both of these people, like both these men, are just iconic in the film world. And yeah, it's kind of a weird. It's not a movie I've seen, Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid, but like from my bit of research into it, it's a really interesting movie. Did a lot of creative things in terms of its storytelling, which is interesting.
I love seeing that.
Funny, I didn't know that there was an actual movie called that. I always just assumed it was a nod to like the pirate phrase, like dead men, tell no tales.
Oh, which it might be, but
I'm assuming that probably the original movie that's where that got that title. I love it when we have like just Inception meta references on meta references.
Well, the Wikipedia article for Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid explains that this film is both a parody of and an homage to film noir and the pulp detective films of the 40s. So that's a really interesting. I don't know why the writers decided to pull from this specifically, but it's fun, and it also just, Supernatural and the Plaid.
I was looking at that list of actors, and it's just off the charts. Like, you got Humphrey Bogart, James Cagney, Betty Davis.
Oh, because it
Cary
incorporates clips from 19 vintage films.
Yeah, because it pulls a lot of black and white films.
Wow,
interesting.
So it was a really creative sort of movie in the 80s.
Fourth wall kind of.
Yeah. And then again, the title obviously referencing plaid, which there's the other tie to Supernatural and like Hunting World. It's a fun.
Bobby wears lots of plaid.
Yeah, it's definitely a reference. Like
Winchesters have no shortage of plaid in their lives.
Yeah,
so
and it's really pulling to Bobby specifically, which is let's talk about the episode and Bobby and
love Bobby. Anytime we get more Bobby, I'm all there for it. It was wild that the brothers at the beginning are like, wow, Bobby's not picking up. You left him more messages. Bobby's not picking up. Okay, sorry. Where did we leave the last episode off? At Bobby's. Like, what? What is this disconnect? You're making some large strides here.
Yeah, Bobby. It's probably been a minute.
We also get to find out like a bunch of information about how Bobby's sort of perceived locally, like more than we knew in the past.
Which is wild.
Which is Bobby's the town drunk, according to Jody. Ass full of drunken disorderlies and mail fraud, which the drunken disorderlies, okay. The mail fraud, I'm trying to figure out.
That one makes a lot of sense, actually, because if he's set up as the FBI base, he's the CIA headquarters for all these different aliases that they put out there. Surely at some point he's gotten a letter about it.
Yeah, he's had to like register his address as like, Agent Willis of the FBI.
Or it was on some postcard.
Phenomenal.
They give out business cards in this one, that have Bobby's number on it. So surely they've put an address on there once or twice.
Which seems the hubris of white men in like being like, we can totally get away with this.
Yeah,
the fact that Bobby has lived in the same town. The fact that Bobby's lived like Sam and Dean, like at least they travel around, so like they do the crimes and then they leave. They're harder to track down. Bobby has literally been living in the same place.
Yeah,
for so long. So the long con of Bobby, as with all these aliases, is going quite well. Yeah. The town just believes he is a bit of a disaster.
Are they wrong?
Which, is probably a great thing for him. They stay out of his way. They don't pay him any mind. They don't bother him. Yeah. He just gets to do his thing and hunt and be a safe space. Nobody's going to come messing around his barn, his little panic room. Like, what?
No. We also meet Jody Mills.
Yeah.
Sheriff of Sioux Falls.
Nice, sweet baby girl. I love her.
Played by the incredible Kim Rhodes.
Iconic, show-stopping, sensational.
She was great this episode.
Yeah, tragic in this episode as well.
Yeah, having her child son come back. Do they ever specify how he died? It's not that makes it any better, but if it was like a terminal illness and he came back, that would hurt a little bit more having to see him die.
That's what I kind of always assumed it was.
I'm gonna look.
If it was a tragic accident,
take a quick little,
either way, it's
little
like
look-see to the wikis.
Get your kid back, and that's phenomenal. It makes perfect sense that she's putting down all these rumors.
The Supernatural wiki, I'll say this because it's not really a spoiler because there isn't any information. It says that he died of unknown causes. So yeah, probably some unknown mysterious illness.
Yeah, so
that's unfortunate.
Seems to
her
be
motivations with kind of quieting everything makes a lot of sense. Especially her coming up to them in the diner and them being like, "Yeah, we're FBI agents, of course. Here's our card. Call our supervisor for sure."
They're so cocky. They're so
They're
cocky.
so cocky, so full of
This
it.
always works. This
Every
never has
time.
not worked for them.
She recognizes his voice as, wait, Bobby? And the instant he puts the phone down for a second, oh, God,
No,
what?
I don't know what you mean.
I don't know who are you
And then he
talking about?
tries again.
Tries
He's like,
so
maybe I
hard.
can just.
Doesn't even change the voice a little bit. He
No,
just,
Like,
not at all.
Robert, darling,
Sir.
what did you think was going to happen
Like,
here?
she is way smarter than this.
the way that the brothers' faces change afterwards, like, oh, so Bobby, yeah, this is crazy. Isn't it so funny? And she's like, FBI.
And they're
sure."
like, please don't actually just arrest us for impersonating a federal officer because you 100% could.
Like,
What a
they
fun
just are giving
coincidence.
this look of like, please don't call our dad, even though you were just on the phone with him. Like,
Oh my God, please, please, please.
They could be in. This could have gone so much worse if it wasn't like Jody and she didn't have a tiny bit of like more willingness to look the other way than they deserve.
Yeah, that should have been red flag number one. If they
Yeah.
got caught that bad and didn't get taken
And
to
the
jail.
sheriff is just, they're like, what is going on with the sheriff? This is just a perfect introduction for a character who will continue to take no shit.
Strong female character that I can get attached to. I
yeah,
love
yeah.
it.
You can feel
All
free.
we're going to tell you, but
That's all we're going to say. We're not going to say
nope, just
how
don't.
Beasley or
Just stop.
just-
Just stop.
yeah.
I hate it.
We'll talk more. Okay, I want to talk more about Jody, but we can talk more about that when we get to like the end of the episode because I want to talk about her team up with
Yes.
Sam because it's great.
Oh yeah, it's
But the brothers go from there straight to Bobby because he's apparently been ducking their calls. And so
they're
now
like, oh, so you've just been ignoring our. Which, if they've been looking for him, why didn't they show up at his house earlier than
because
this? They were.
it seems
in
like that's what
town.
they do right after, right? They don't call
Yeah,
him and then say
like,
we're coming by. They just show up.
Why, if he's been dodging your calls, why didn't you show up? Was he not at home when you showed?
I feel like step number one when a hunter dodges your calls for more than 24 hours is show up
Just
at
go to
their
their
house.
Especially if they have a house. Like a lot of hunters, that's
Yeah.
not an option. But with Bobby, you literally could show up at his house.
That's
you
kind of
know
weak.
exactly where he is.
Especially if they don't have a case they're working on actively. What's their excuse?
Yeah.
They should have just gone by. Whatever.
But whatever.
Plot armor.
Plot, convenience.
The soap comment is the one that really sent me.
Yeah. Is that soap? Did you clean? It says, what are you, my mother? Bite
Is this
me.
the first time we've seen Bobby without the ball cap? So I think it might be.
It might be. I don't think it's the
With an
first time.
ironed
It's the
shirt,
first time he's
for sure.
clean shaven and hair brushed.
Yeah, a
Oh,
little bit
looking
of
fancy.
grease, slick back hair.
Looking
Yeah,
nice.
when you look at his house too, like some of the shots, and all of the books are like stacked carefully. Like it's not the
Very
normal
tidy.
organized chaos that we've seen at Bobby's house.
Yeah.
It looks like a normal person's house, not a hunter's house.
Which we can't abide that.
No.
We can't abide normal people houses. Not
Get
in
outta
this
here.
universe.
I want it to
Um,
look like maybe a hoarder.
Yeah, I think it's really cute that as soon as they've been introduced to Karen, Dean is immediately calling her Mrs. Singer.
He's
I
so
know.
sweet with her. It's so kind.
Like
He's-
that precious little nougat.
It's immediately like, yeah,
He's so excited about the pie.
he's talks to her like he's an 11-year-old over at aunt and uncle's house.
Oh my God,
It's
yes.
really cute.
It's so sweet.
Oh.
And the second she's out of frame, the second.
What
What the hell's wrong with you? I can't believe that.
Bobby. Also, Bobby's very, very clever. There are zombies, and then there's zombies.
So good.
Right,
Like-
right.
All
So
the
Bobby.
different, the way that people throw back the same phrase at each other, you know, Sam and Dean at the beginning, when he says, he's a monster, he's a soccer dad. Like,
Yeah.
okay, you're a zombie, I'm a taxpayer.
That was my favorite one.
Yeah.
The taxpayer line
Some
is too
very
good.
good dialogue in this episode.
Very good.
I will say, you know, if you come back from the dead and you kill your killer, even if like
Ye-
it's cool motive,
Cool motive,
Still
still murder.
Still murder.
like I'm still kind of like I don't quite understand why Jody goes and is immediately like, yeah, we're just gonna like let this guy go. Like I get that Sam and Dean you should probably be arresting all three of them in that
Yeah,
moment.
honestly.
Yeah.
Like I know the dead are coming to life all over town, and I know one of them is your son, but your son hasn't currently murdered anyone, and this
Yeah.
dude has.
Yeah, they make it sound like his killer didn't even get jail time after.
But it also sounded like it was a hunting accident. accident. Which
that's true.
It sounded like genuinely, like I was waiting for the, like, more information about like, oh, it seemed like a hunting accident, but it wasn't. But it seems like from what we know, it genuinely was a hunting accident.
Interesting.
So,
Clay doesn't seem to believe that.
No, Clay doesn't seem to care.
But he also, as soon as the brothers show up with him, he's like, yeah, okay, take me in. I get it. This is wrong. I don't understand how it happened, but surely you guys do, and take me away. And they're like,
yeah,
who do you think we are?
But then also he's very indignant about the fact that they were going to kill him. And then we get that "you're a zombie, I'm a taxpayer," which is just iconic. Like,
so good.
What a way to defend yourself. Like,
Dean's not. So like,
it's true. Dean is not a taxpayer. Dean has not paid any taxes in his life.
He was trained by John to do one smart thing.
Also, pretty sure he's legally dead. So
yeah,
also true.
So dead people don't need to pay taxes. There's an episode title right there.
Right there.
Yeah, American Girl Zombie baking cupcakes in your kitchen. When Dean said that, I busted out laughing.
What
so
American Girls are, which is so niche.
Dean, the man that you are,
the breadth of
the
pop culture
individual
that Dean is aware of.
He's so good
for being a very specific type of character. He really knows pop culture well outside of his comfort zone.
And that's powerful, honestly. He kicks ass with that.
Yeah.
That line in particular, I was dead. I was like, I can't.
The softness with which the boys handle the situation is so touching. From start to finish, they're confused, concerned, but then once they realize like what's happening, they realize that they're not going to fight Bobby over this. They're just going to try to protect him behind his back.
Right. Dean's still going to show up and like keep an eye on Karen, but
when he kicks them out.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Which is
God.
Un-Bobby of him.
Well, I mean, Bobby in this moment wants to, I think, pretend. He'd like to pretend that he could go back in time before he was a hunter, before the apocalypse, before everything.
When he's talking about her humming in the kitchen, and I never thought I would hear it again. The way that he whispers that line is so touching.
He's fucking devastating.
And like, because we know how Karen died, like we've been in Bobby's nightmares about having to kill her because she was possessed. Like that he's getting these moments of like tenderness with her.
So sweet and so heart-wrenching at the same time.
Yeah, because like we know, like Bobby's smart enough. Like Bobby knows this isn't gonna last.
He's in denial, but he knows.
But no one's gonna convince me that Bobby isn't just trying to see how long he can make this last. But he knows it won't. The apocalypse isn't gonna go away. The dead don't rise for no reason.
Yeah, and when he's like saying, oh well, like maybe this is the one good thing that we get out of the Book of Revelation, and it's like, oh sweetheart, say that sentence again.
Yeah.
About it a little.
Oh, buddy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we're talking about another horseman. Like,
and that I had in my notes too. Another horseman must be Thursday.
That probably, I mean, Sam stared at him for a hot second after that. It probably triggered something. He's like, at least it's not Tuesday.
Yeah.
Good.
Oh yeah,
at least it's not Tuesday.
At least, yeah. Well, and we, these we've had war and famine, and now we're looking at death. But death is bringing folks back to life in order to intimidate Bobby in some way.
In order to intentionally mess with the people in the Winchesters' lives.
Their biggest form of support. He's trying to take that down.
And the way that Bobby says, I don't know if he was trying to kill, like, me or my spirit. And then Sam's like, but you're going to be okay, right? And he just doesn't answer.
But after this, so the first time they ask, you're going to be all right, he doesn't even look at them. But after the second one, he looks Sam dead in the eyes and is like, no.
What do you want me to say? Like, I can't, there's nothing I can say to you.
Well, because, like, of course he's not going to be okay. Like, he just had to kill his wife again. And nothing, like, this episode, nothing progresses in terms of their ability to stop the apocalypse. They just kind of get hit in the face with the fact that, like, their worst the worst parts of their lives are getting rehashed.
Yep.
It is interesting to see this episode right after the one with famine, and to see Sam in this episode right after watching him be pushed into a relapse.
Yeah.
Sam's like very effective in this episode as a hunter.
Yeah, he's on top of it.
And him and Jody are
Him
just
and
this
Jody.
like,
what a fucking team.
Oh
Yeah.
my god.
Oh, did y'all catch the I don't know if this is like an intentional parallel, but maybe it's one of those like, oh, Supernatural just being accidentally brilliance. But the parallel to 217 Heart.
With Madison?
Yeah, when Sam has to go kill her
Mhm.
son and the shot stays on her.
Yeah.
And just like, why is Sam always having to do this? Like,
I really
why?
thought she was pulling
Like-
him back to take the gun herself and be like, oh, well, I'll do it. It's okay. But if it seemed like she thought about it and then
But
realized she
Sam was
couldn't.
just like, I'm not gonna know.
I'm glad that she didn't have to, because
Yeah.
like that's your like, it's one thing for Bobby, who is a hunter who understands this situation better. Like, it's still devastating for Bobby, but he understands what's happening more. Jody has not even had the talk. She's not had the monsters are real talk yet. Like this is her small child. Like, that's
Who
horrific.
just killed her husband.
Yeah, and so
And like,
she's
she's just walking away from that visual. Like, can we talk about what an icon she is for being able to even being able to speak?
She
moments after
processes
seeing
that whole thing so fast.
because she's like a professional.
well, she goes right into like protection mode,
Yeah.
I think.
She walks out and is instantly like, that was not my son. And Sam's like, oh, nice, cool. You're right. It wasn't.
Yeah, we don't have to go over this. Thank
we
you.
don't have to have that argument
Yeah.
because she just knows, which makes me kind of curious with her because she has lived in the same town as Bobby for years. She knows who Bobby is. Like, I just wonder if she's seen anything else.
Yeah.
Even if it's not explicit, I wonder if, in all of her
Be
years.
surprised.
If with the amount of times that she says that she's arrested Bobby or implies that she's arrested Bobby,
Yeah.
I feel like she's seen a little bit more of his cover-ups, where he's like, yeah, I was just drunk, made a mess or something. And
Yeah,
Yeah.
like she knows that he gets into weird shit.
She's maybe seen some supernatural adjacent things, which maybe is part of why she
accepts
gets
all
with
of this.
she accepts it really fast. I mean, she's also in shock, and she's also trained to be able to think quickly and
Yeah.
do
and you
what's
also
needed to
think
protect people.
the fact that like her son came back at all was a big enough introduction to the supernatural, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think she's able to digest it a little faster than, maybe somebody who like hadn't known the situation and had just seen their kid come in. But like, she's been taking care of her zombie son for presumably like a week now, like reading
Yeah.
him bedtime stories and calling the doctor. That's my big question.
That's the wildest.
Have they taken the kid to the doctor? Does the doctor know the child is dead?
I think he does.
Well, maybe
The first
this
one did.
Maybe this, I mean, I'm assuming a doctor knew her child was dead, but like probably
Yeah.
not this doctor. I'm gonna guess that
Went to a new
Jody's
doctor.
calling a different doctor. Jody's not calling a doctor that already knows this situation, because
The first doctor she called was like, hey, here's a psychiatrist I know, please. Hey, it's all
Yeah.
right. Like something like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because we
that's
also
fair.
don't know. We also don't know how long ago her son died.
That's true. It could have been recent. It could have been a couple years.
So we don't know, like, how fresh it is and how that may impact, how surprised she is and what other people in the community know or remember.
I do love the bit at the end though, where she's like, a few people have already tried calling the papers and no one's believed them yet. I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah. I mean,
Which is an interesting way to explain away the events that, sometimes they have events that are so huge and it's like, how did nobody see that? Like nobody posted about that online?
yes.
They tried.
But yeah, this is one where it does seem like the kind of thing that like there's no evidence. They've burned all these bodies other
Yeah.
than everyone's stories.
There's a couple of police reports that are
And they probably like yada yada it away by being like, yeah, there was a hallucinogen that got into the water supply fly or something.
Too much
Yeah.
fluoride.
I mean, a lot grief is messy and complicated, and we don't always understand how people act when they're grieving or how people remember things, and that plays into, I mean, even with Bobby, like Bobby acts super not like a hunter
Until he gets to the point where he actually, lets Karen go. And it's a heart-wrenching scene, beautifully done, especially when Dean comes in.
The worry on Dean's face,
Oh my
though.
God, he's so concerned.
Oh.
And then he's concerned in a different way. He's concerned for how Bobby is going to take that. And then they team up and they are ready to take out all the zombies. And it's so good.
Such so much interesting fight choreography with the Dean and Bobby scene and the Sam and Jody scene, but the Dean and Bobby scene in particular, because they're working with the wheelchair as well.
Especially because the wheelchair is relatively recent, compared to how long Bobby and Dean have been able to train together. The wheelchair is a more new addition. So them having such good chemistry with that is such a great scene.
But yet it is still a little choppy at points. Like when Bobby first is knocked out of the wheelchair, he has to be like, Dean, I need assistance. There's those little moments where you're reminded that this is still new to them.
But then whenever Dean pushes him into the one room and Bobby just puts the shotgun above his head for Dean to grab, this is so good.
They are very in sync.
I do love the Dean bit though of they don't know how to pick locks. You get tired of being wrong.
Don't you ever get tired of it? It's the silence after he says they can't pick a lock.
Slow shot.
Oh, you kidding me right now? Beautiful.
Bobby's like, stop talking out of your ass.
I'm making this up as I go. Sue me. Oh, good.
Making it up as you go. Dean. Is that a thing that you and your boyfriend like to do? Fine. Who's counting?
Oh, and then Sam and Jody coming in for the rescue.
Bam, bam, bam. Okay, I'm glad they at least called out, hey, get down. They were. He's like, hey, we got to do headshots. I'm sorry. You guys get low.
I mean, we're proving that both Sam and Jody are really good shots because, man, that's a little bit of a risky. Everything's
just,
moving,
down and then got everybody in a headshot,
but didn't get Dean or Bobby in a headshot because I feel like it's kind of dark. Everyone's moving
aggressively,
and two people are shooting. How are you
communicating which one?
Are you sure that you can tell which shock of dark hair is the zombie versus the?
Yeah, they're good.
You're just that good.
It's the next day whenever they're burning the bodies, and Sam and Jody they talk about the people talking to the papers, and Sam asks, "How are you holding up?" And she doesn't answer, and just holds it for such a long time. But they don't force anything. They just
I mean, it's another nice moment for Sam of Sam checking in and going, you know what happened in a way that nobody else in this town knows what happens. Presumably after everything went down, there was at least some kind of explanation that they gave to Jody, some kind of elements of the truth, how much they told her. Probably not a lot, but they would have told her enough.
But that leading into Bobby burning Karen's body alone, heartbreaking, until the brothers show up to join him.
They gave her a hunter's funeral, which is really nice.
Really
considering that's not we haven't seen this kind of a burial for a non-hunter. I'm not sure if we've seen this kind of burial at all for a non-hunter before.
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure it's new.
Did Ronnie get one after Night Shifter? I feel like
I don't think so, because I think there was
because they had to run.
The cops got him.
Yeah. They probably would have given him one had they been able to. But
well, a hunter's funeral is largely so that there's no chance of future possession or zombification, which obviously didn't work in this scenario because it didn't matter, because it wasn't actually reliant on their bodies.
The one person that wasn't technically a hunter that we did see get a hunter's funeral was Adam, because
you're right. You are right.
Yeah,
but
and
he was adopted by hunters, so it tracks.
And he is related to the Winchesters, which puts him in potential risk of
possession,
zombification
type.
Angry spirit, and it's also to prevent someone becoming an angry spirit. If you burn their bones, then there's nothing for them to hold on to. And Adam would have been a pretty good candidate for becoming an angry spirit. Given
the way he died.
Yeah.
So I think we got to close it out with the conversation they have with Bobby after Karen's funeral, or at Karen's funeral, talking about the message that death sent to Bobby. It's a little intimidating.
And Dean's perspective on this. Like he says, you know, I don't know squat about love, but at least you got 5 days with her. And Bobby says that makes it worse.
So fair.
She's the love of my life. How many times do I have to kill her?
And I just want to like draw out some parallels here of like the concept of like having to kill someone that you love, like having to kill the love of your life is something that I want us to just like take note of for future
for anything, you know,
for future connections with other characters. I mean, we've seen this kind of thing before. I just want us to pay attention to how Supernatural often as a narrative puts its characters in positions where they have to kill or say goodbye to the love of their lives.
But I'm sure that won't come up ever again.
Yeah, no, I'm sure
never,
it won't.
Never again.
Not at any other point.
I confess.
Screams into the void.
It will.
Thinking about anyway.
Anywho.
There's just so many instances of this. You see this with Jess and Mary and Madison and who else at this point?
Yeah, it's always either having to kill them or at the worst, like at the other end of it, having to watch them die, even if you're not like the one that's killing them.
Well, and having to be responsible for their death, because I think with like both Mary and Jess, there are people in their lives that feel responsible for their deaths, even though like Sam and John don't kill them. Sam particularly feels very responsible. He feels like he's the reason that Jess died, even though he's not the one that killed her.
Yeah.
And kind of same difference, honestly.
This episode is a lot.
It's a lot.
But
and death is still out there. Like, so the last 2 times we've met horsemen, they've managed to
show up in that episode.
Yeah. And the boys have managed to, you know, with War, they managed to take his ring. Same with Famine.
They just kind of ripped apart. They didn't really.
Yeah. But they're not. Yeah. Death doesn't actually make it appearance.
You get a description of death though from Karen. Like a skeletal looking dude.
Which,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Spooky.
not. I mean, horsemen. We've now encountered at least somewhat 3 out of 4.
2.5.
But we've only met 2, so I think we're
getting there.
We're getting there.
Season 5 is winding down.
It's hitting the gas pedal.
The Revelations piece, like the fact that they're bringing in so much Revelations lore, like the horsemen. I mean, they've had things with seals. They've had all of this apocalyptic vessels, all this apocalyptic sort of language and symbolism being brought into modern era.
Very interesting. Love to see it.
Foot on the gas pedal as we are now, you know, season 5, episode 15. We got 7 episodes left
to the apocalypse.
We got how many episodes left before the end of this season? Like
I think 7.
7 episodes left.
Getting there. We're getting there.
I think that's a good place to wrap up our main discussion. So now it is time for Going Meta, where we are tracking lore, representation, behind the scenes trivia, and more. First, we'll start off with our rep check.
Rep check?
Yeah, Jody's great.
Jody's great. And I'm Karen.
She has to watch her family die, which sucks, but she's great.
But at least in Jody's case, we're not getting the like, we've killed a female character for male character's pain. At least Jody, I mean, it's kind of flipped, but like we get to see Jody as a person.
Yeah, the woman gets to like live and continue on and be a badass. I would have loved to have seen her and Karen interact though. That would have been really nice, I think.
That would have been really interesting.
Interesting dynamic there.
I would have loved to have seen the conversation that Jody had about the explanation conversation. I love that conversation.
Always.
With Sam and Dean and Bobby or whoever talked through that. I would have loved to have seen that. Her and Sam worked super well together, and that dynamic is.
Yeah, that actually really, in the rewatching of this episode, like the Jody Sam dynamic was something that jumped out to me in a way that it never really has before. It was very nice.
It was strong, respectful on both ends.
Yeah, very collaborative.
Yeah.
Another thing representation wise is we kind of talked about the wheelchair combat scene. Like they give Bobby the ability to still fight and be involved.
Kick ass.
Yeah, that was pretty great.
But they still also acknowledge some of the limitations of that in that, he's a lot more easily incapacitated and he needs Dean's assistance to get out of the situation. And so there's some, I mean, it's
acknowledged his vulnerability while still giving him power, which is a nice balance that doesn't happen very often on this show.
No, it's
refreshing.
We love that.
So get this, I was looking into the lore and we've got a handful of things as we've, kind of been chatting about with Revelation, with the vessels,
horsemen,
horsemen. Oh, we're getting so close.
We're so close. We also get a resurgence of Bobby's phone wall
Yes.
play.
One of my favorite
The phone wall
things
is back.
that Bobby has.
Love that. So fun.
In the
Yeah.
first instance of getting caught in a lie using the phone wall.
Yeah, of it really, really not working for
Courtesy
not the
of
reasons you would think.
Sleuth Jody Mills.
Like, it's not Sam and Dean's fault that this doesn't work.
No.
It's actually Bobby's, which
Because
is
he's been ducking their calls, doesn't even know where they are.
yeah. Also, in lore, we obviously have zombies, and this is not the first time we've had zombies, but these are very particular kind of zombies, and they're very traditional kind of zombies too, like the actual eating, the actual like fever, kind of going mad, eating flesh.
Yeah.
You got your standard run-of-the-mill zombie here.
It's interesting that that's what Death decides to go with. You know, that's how Death decides to raise them, because when we've seen other zombies and like people back from the dead in other episodes, it's portrayed a little differently.
I think it's because this is a little bit more heart-wrenching, because it gives them 5 days of everything they wanted and then rips it all apart.
Oh no, Death's not just going for the kill, he's going for the maximum emotional damage.
Emotional
Psychic damage. Oh god. I was gonna say, I do have a question that I'm curious. I feel like August, you would know this if anyone. Was it just me, or was that diner from the beginning the mystery spot diner?
Ooh, I didn't.
It looks like the same layout, but that could just be me reaching. But I know that you know a lot about location.
Let's do a quick little look. I'm gonna find out about if it is, because that's something we can determine. So this diner is not the same as the diner in Mystery Spot, but it is going to be used again.
Oh, okay. Well, because I was like, I've definitely seen this in another episode.
Yeah, so it's going to be used again in season 6 at least once. So
okay, interesting. Okay, well that makes me feel slightly more validated.
There's a limited amount of like that's particular Americana style diner in the Lower Mainland where Supernatural was filmed. So they did film at the same ones quite a lot. Like the diner where they talked
about some of them that you've like been to.
Yeah, because the diner where they meet Adam is a diner that I'm very familiar with, and it appears more than once in the show. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for doing that digging. That was something I had noticed like just before I was. Oh, I wonder.
A little behind the scenes
deep dive
for us. Yeah.
That, I guess, brings us to the end of our episode where we're going to do our character blessings. Basically, we're just going to pick some characters that we feel deserve some love after what they went through this week. So who's got somebody to bless?
I would like to bless Jody. The whole world has changed in a moment for her. And she's already been through that once. Like, her whole world changed when she lost her child, and it changes again when she loses her child again and her husband, and finds out that monsters are real. I want the best for Jody after this moment. You want her to have the time and the space and the resources and support to process everything she's been through. And just a blessing for grieving for Jody.
Yeah, love that.
What about you, Noah?
I'm gonna bless Bobby to nobody's surprise, because he needs it and deserves it, and he just wants to be with his wife again. And that's all he wanted, and he had it for a little while, and it hurt even more because he had to end it. But he did it, and he has his support of his boys.
He's not without family.
Might not be enough for him, and that hurts. Blessings to Bobby.
Bless Bobby for sure. I would like to bless Sam this week, actually, because having to waste a kid, like whether they're a zombie or not, I can't imagine is easy for him. And having to do so while like you're also, very busy being worried about your own father figure and if he's going to be okay, and still managing to like do your job and save other people and protect other people. Like Sam, he's very, very good at compartmentalizing when he needs to take the lead, but it doesn't mean that he's not going through something awful. And so he's been through so much of this season already that just that on top of it, I'm like, really? That's what we're going to do to Sam this week?
Yeah.
So
he comes through with the win for them all.
He does. So blessings to Sam. And I guess that's where we take us out this week. Thank y'all for joining me, for being here.
Yeah.
I got a little teary on that blessing. That was a little
it's a sad time. So feeling it a little. Thank you to everyone who's joined us today. If you're listening,
remember to take care of yourselves.
Yeah. Remember to be gentle with yourself in your own
in your fandom.
Yeah. in your grief, fandom or otherwise, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
All of the above.
yeah.
Make sure you are subscribed to Saving People Queering Things wherever you listen to podcasts and share our show with your friends.
You can find links to all of our social media and join our Discord server if you want to be a part of our little community where we talk about episodes and life and have a grand old time. And you can do all that through our website, queeringthingspodcast.com.
And if you are all caught up on Supernatural and want to go to Before the Beginning, you can listen to August and myself with our friends Beth and KJ over at Wayward Parents, a podcast about the Winchesters, where we have updates at Wayward Parents or on Twitter and Tumblr at Wayward Parents Pod. And if it hasn't been renewed somewhere else by the time this episode comes out, hashtag save the Winchesters, because we want more.
Be sure to ride along with us next week as we explore Season 5, Episode 16, Dark Side of the Moon.
Yee.
Thank you all for coming along for the ride, and we wish you a peaceful road until we meet again.